I hope you can listen to me as a child that grew up in the house where there was physical fight. And I'll say to you, please, please take a minute and think about it. It's not worth it. You only live once. Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. So it's actually the end of the day, and I just wanted to make this video before I go to bed. So I promised to make this video previously, but I kind of changed. I kind of left it because I didn't really want to talk about it. If you're new to my channel, my name is Summer, and welcome to my channel. And to all my regular viewers, hello and welcome back. Remember to click that subscribe button so that and click the bell sign as well, so you know when next I upload a video. I promised previously to tell this story. I have been reluctant to share it because it's something that is really hard for me to talk about, but at the same time I wanted to share it as most of the time I try to share videos, and most of the time when I share my life story, I hope it inspires someone or teaches someone or somebody learns something from my experience. And sometimes it's hard to share your life story, but when you think about what it can do for someone, when you think about what it can do, you know, what it can do for another family or for somebody else, it kind of motivates you to, you know, make the video. I have been reluctant to talk about this because it's not a very easy thing to talk about. It's not a very easy thing to talk about. But I want to say to any parent watching this, to really think about your actions, you know, to really think about your actions around your children. Think about what you do. I'm saying because you have children you shouldn't have feelings like, you know, anger or frustration or whatever, you know, disappointment or whatever in your life. But I just feel like you should shield your children as much as possible. Shield them, because you can't undo things. You know, you are grown up, you and your partner, your husband, your wife, or whatever, you are grown-ups, and you know, you guys, there is so much you understand. There's so much, you know, but for children, there is so much children don't understand. And as far as children are concerned, there's daddy and that's mommy, and that's all they know, you know. And when you have your fights or your problems, your children are not the ones that have a fight. It's you and your partner that have a fight, not the children. And they shouldn't, as much as possible, avoid to make them suffer. Avoid letting them experience some things, because a lot of the time the things they see or the things they experience cannot be undone. You know, things they see, they cannot be unseen. Some children can actually get damaged by the things that happens. So today's story, I'm just going to share about I'm going to share as much as I can, and I'm going to share about what happened on the day. Well, okay, there've always been arguments and misunderstanding between them, but it wasn't physical. I didn't grow up seeing it physical, but eventually it got physical. That I can remember few fights. Okay, I can remember a few fights, and I think the arguments were hard for me. I don't want to speak for my siblings, because at the end of the day we're all different. We experience things differently. I'm going to talk about, you know, we experience things differently, or we feel things differently. I'm going to speak for myself, how I felt and how it affected me. I found it really hard seeing my parents fight, like physically hit each other. It was so hard. Like, fighting was something I saw kids my age do. Like, it was not something I was used to. Two grown-ups that I had so much respect for. It was not something I was used to seeing them do, but they started doing it. So and they started arguing about the littlest, most stupid things. You know, I remember like all the arguments, and I can tell you how it started, you know, because they really did, you know, stick with me. And on this day there was an argument about something as minor as, okay, the argument started. Before I knew it was a big argument, and there was a fight, you know. And I can't remember, but I think maybe my dad slapped my mom, and the next thing, she had a fork she was using to kind of mix the chocolate in the milk, and she poked it at him, you know, and she poked it at him, and that was the beginning of a fight. Yeah. And I never forgot, I'll never forget the day, and they started fighting. So luckily I had older cousins that I lived with us, and they all kind of stepped in and broke up the fight. So I remember this fight going on and on and on, and And my mother was, and then my mother said to us, oh, you go on and have your hot chocolate, just go on and have your hot chocolate. And we all went to the kitchen to go take our hot chocolate. Everybody went, my younger ones all went and started drinking their hot chocolate, but I couldn't, you know. I just couldn't drink it. I was really stressed. Like, I was thinking about it so much. I was so stressed that I didn't have the appetite to drink it. So I hung around there for a while and came back out to where the fight was happening, because the fight had moved from the kitchen to, like, we had this long corridor between in the house, a massive, really long corridor. And I came out after a while because I just wanted to be there. I was not at peace. I wanted to be there to see what was going on. And I came out, and a lot of the cousins that were much older, they were much older cousins, and they were all like they were all tired because the fight had gone on for too long. And they were the ones separating and kind of putting, like, how do you say, separate them, you know, trying to stop the break up the fight. They were the ones trying to break up the fight. And they and I came out from the kitchen and I walked up this long corridor, and I could see my cousins, one there like dozing off, another resting on the wall and dozing off. They were all kind of like asleep. So, and then I looked up at the end of the corridor and I saw my mom on the floor, lying down in a prone position, lying flat. No, she was lying flat facing down. She was lying flat on her tummy. I would never forget the way she was when I walked in there. And I walked in there and she was lying down there on her tummy, facing, like, you say, she's lying like this, but she's kind of facing out, like her face on one side. And I was confused because I didn't understand why she was not that she was just lying down, but the way she was lying, like completely flat. And my dad was standing on one end of the other side of the corridor, and these guys were all asleep. And I walked up to her and I grabbed her hand, and that is a memory that would never leave me. I grabbed her hand. I walked up to her and I called her and she didn't answer, and I called her again and she didn't answer. And I grabbed her hand and her hand fell back down, and then I started screaming and I was crying, and when I remember this story, that's why it's hard for me to share it. When I remember this story, I am more upset for the pain that I had to go through seeing that than anything else. It upsets me that I had to see that. It upsets me that at my age I had to experience that, because that experience haunted me for a long time. And I remember screaming, and I was just calling her, and then my cousins, everybody woke up, like they were all asleep. I think there were 3 of my cousins, yeah, 3 of them. Everybody woke up, and I know my siblings all came in, and everybody was crying and screaming and, you know, calling out to her and shouting and calling her. And I felt like my world just ended, you know. Imagine a little child waking up and just seeing their mother lying down like that. It was like the most horrible thing you've ever seen. And I just thought, like, it was hard for a child of my age to process. I would have been maybe 9. So they chased us all out. They kind of sent all of us out, you know. They sent all of us out. They didn't want us to see any of the things that's going on. And all I remember that I was crying so much that I had no more strength to cry. I just couldn't stop crying. And I remember all I heard was crying everywhere. And we're all screaming. That's all I remember was just the crying. and screaming and just screaming. Like, it was the loudest sound in the world. Everybody was screaming and crying so loud, and I couldn't breathe. And like I was in so much pain and upset that I just couldn't think, I couldn't breathe. I can't even explain. The other thing I remember was, like, in those days, you know, the way when the electricity goes off in Nigeria, the electricity goes off sometimes. We always have like a bowl of frozen ice that it can be used later to cool water down to drink and stuff like that. So that, I remember my older cousins walking. They were like almost like uncles to us. They walked into the kitchen and they went into the freezer and got the bowls. They got the bowls of frozen water and they went back in. And I wasn't allowed. We weren't allowed in, so we had no clue what was going on. And I'm thinking they must have maybe broken the ice, like you know, it was kind of like not completely frozen. Maybe they kind of like it wasn't frozen yet. It was still early to be frozen, so maybe they poured it on her or whatever. I don't know honestly what they did. And later on they let us in, and we went in there, and my mom was there, and her eyes were open this time. She wasn't lying on the floor anymore. Her eyes were open, but she was weak. She was weak, her voice was weak. And when I think back, you know, I seriously do not know what they did to bring her back. I seriously do not know. But I believe that as we were crying, that God saw our tears and God heard us crying, and God said, I'm going to bring her back for the sake of the children. That's what I think, and that's how I feel. I lifted her arm, and her arm went back, flopped completely and fell back down. The real reason I actually wanted to make this video is because I want anyone that has children, you know, I want parents to really think. A lot of the time, you know, parents get consumed with their fights and their arguments, and then they forget about the children and how what they do affect the children. You know, it did affect me so much. Like, anytime, that image of my mom on the floor never left me. It's better now, but then as a kid I used to be in class and I just sit like that quietly. I didn't interact much. I was very sad inside. Every time I remember that, even as a kid, I would just start bawling and crying, and really, you know, it really distressed me. It stayed in my memory for the, like, it really did affect me for a long time. And if I think about, even when I think back, like when I think back, I'm actually not like remembering like, oh yeah, feeling sorry for my mom or feeling sorry for my dad. No, I feel sorry for myself and my siblings for what we went through. And like I said, I don't know how my siblings dealt with it. I can only speak for myself. I struggled with those experiences. I really did struggle, and I feel like my parents hated each other more than they loved their kids. That was my experience, you know. Do whatever you can to prevent your children from seeing things that you know they can never, things that would hurt them. Prevent your children from seeing things, because there are a lot of things that a lot of things that children see that you know, because once they see these things, they cannot unsee them. Children can actually get damaged by their experiences. I just hope that my video will make a lot of parents think about their children. I know you have your fights, you have your arguments, but don't let that consume you so much where you forget about the welfare of your children. Some children actually get really damaged beyond, if I can use the word beyond repair. Psychologically, it can really damage children. Emotionally and psychologically, it can really damage children. And it really did affect me growing up. And like I said, the image of that day stayed with me for such a long time. I just hope my experience of how it affected me will make you as a parent think. Physical fight, I feel like if it's going to get to the point of physical fight, I think you should just, you know, go your separate ways. It's not worth it. Really, it's just not worth it. I know we come from a tradition where they say hold on to it until you lose your life in it, but that's not right. A lot of women have died died in relationships. And who suffers? The children. Some men have died in relationships. Who's gonna have no father or no mother? The children. You know, so all this belief that you have to stay there until you die in it, that's not true. Our prayer is that every relationship will work out well, and you know, people don't will work out well and people don't have to go their separate ways. But I'm saying, when it gets to the point where lives are at risk, you know, I would say having your parents split up, living in 2 different places alive, is better than having them live in the same house and one person gets killed. 100%. 2 days I really wanted to bring out of this is, think about your children. Don't hate your partner more than you love your children. Put the love of your children above the hatred you may have for yourselves. And 2, it's not worth your life. It's not worth your life. When it gets to the point where lives are at risk, do it for yourself and do it for your children. Go your separate ways. If you're going to pray to God to heal your marriage, heal your relationship, do it apart where you're not fighting and killing each other. Pray where you are and let God bring you back together. But if you're going to stay together and end up killing somebody, I would say you're better off just go your separate ways and pray from a distance than to be together and a life get lost or destroy your children emotionally, psychologically with fight. What I experienced growing up is not something I wish on anybody. I just hope that you learn something from this video. I just hope my story touches your heart or opens your eyes to the needs of your children in situations like that. And I just hope you learned something from this video. In your relationship at the moment, you have struggles and you're finding yourself where you're fighting, you know, and there is danger to lives. I hope you can listen to me as a child that grew up in a house where there was physical fight. And I'll say to you, please, please, take a minute and think about it. It's not worth it. You only live once. And secondly, put the love of your children in your heart and think about them in all of this. No matter what happens, the children do not need to get emotionally and psychologically destroyed. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next time, guys. Bye-bye. Bye.
It's goodbye, friends, and goodbye,